Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky on a cold, wintry night. John in Maryland, John Webster, good to see you. Happy MLK Day to you. I hope you paid homage to the good Reverend Doctor in some way, shape, or form.
Hey, Gary, thanks for the nice introduction and definitely great holiday weekend. Happy birthday weekend for Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, the Prince of Nonviolence. And without him, a lot of things wouldn't be in place today. You wouldn't be where you are right now, I would venture to say, Gary.
Indeed.
I definitely wouldn't be where I am right now without the teachings and the beliefs of what Dr. King did. So thank you, Dr. King, for everything. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and I'm sure our able, talented, fantastic producer, John Pitt, wouldn't be where he is as well. And we want to give him props for what he does for us, what he does in general. John, I hope you're doing okay.
I am, yeah. It's great to be a part of another show during this holiday. It's also a Blue Monday for me, so hanging in there though.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life, though, I'm questioning my allegiance to the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
I want to have that on record so that that's public information.
Okay. I'm going to ask one question, and then we're going to discuss why you're questioning your allegiance. Did you have any money on this game, John?
No comment on that. But it's
What's that?
No comment. No comment. I feel like there's only so much we can take as fans, and only so long we can support someone who gives us nothing in return. So. And
also, it's only so long that you can keep on with your back pocket becoming more and more empty. So, that may also have something to do with it too.
Yeah, but John Pitt, be reassured in this, that somewhere there's a Washington football team fan going, hold my beer, okay? Speaking of giving so much and getting nothing in return. I mean, you know, at least the Cowboys, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Cowboys at least make the playoffs. I mean, with Washington, it's like, I always say, you know, sometimes being a Washington fan was like being a Cubs fan back in the day before they got really good and eventually won a World Series, that they sold, the team always sold next year, always next year. And it just has not happened in all but maybe a couple of cases for the Washington football team. So, John, take heart in that there's still a competitive nucleus. Don't give up the ship yet. And, you know, yeah, I'm sure that John Webster was probably having a few jokes at your expense before we went on the air, before I signed on and everything. And that, you know, some of your friends that are questioning why you're a Dallas fan, as opposed to you questioning why you're a Dallas fan, you know, just take heart. Your team still has a chance.
Hey, Gary, one saying that I always say, know your family and know your friends. I at no point am going to make jokes with John Pitt about Dallas for losing the game, because he's right by the bridge, man. And so I know I'm not going to tease him about it. I know the pain he goes through when there's a team up in South Bend that drives me nuts. So, you know, I totally understand. I totally understand.
Yeah.
But you got to stick with him, John. You got to stick with him.
Yeah. And see, at least you have hope. That's the whole thing. There are a lot of, there are a lot of fans of NFL teams that just don't have hope. And John Webster, you can vouch for this. I still believe in pro football that, I guess, of 32 teams, really only 8 of them, a quarter of those teams really, really care about winning on a consistent basis. The rest are collecting TV checks and merchandise money and being happy with that.
That's a sad case of the NFL, Gary. That's all I can say. Because
I mean, well, the NFL prints its own money, and keep in mind, I used to cover the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the Culver House years, and that team, they found more inventive ways to lose games than you can really keep track of. That is until the Jacksonville Jaguars came along. But every year, they turned the biggest profit in the NFL. Every stinking year. Their attendance, was paltry, but they turned a profit every single year because, low overhead and high TV money and merchandise money. So, and I think that's a formula. I mean, a lot of these teams are valued at close to $1 billion. Again, like 8 to 10 teams are probably over that $1 billion threshold. So, I mean, whatever money you spend for a team, it appreciates in value, much like a house, every single year.
Well,
but I digress. Let's talk about those playoff games so we can help John Pitt begin the healing process. And we start with Dallas, San Francisco yesterday. Bizarre ending, but as we discussed pre-show, it really shouldn't have come down to that because there are a number of things that went wrong for Dallas yesterday. I keep thinking about 14 penalties. Some of the play calling. A defense that is opportunistic, didn't come up with all the opportunities that they thought they would. I mean, it's a long list. But the bottom line is that the hopes of a huge Cowboys nation following, they've been dashed again. And, for what it's worth, I'm wondering how in the world does this happen to Dallas? And I'm not a Dallas fan. I'm not a Dallas hater like I used to be, because sometimes when you're a sports writer, you root for a story if you think it's going to be a good story. And I've kind of rooted for the Cowboys for the last few years. I rooted for Dak to get his money. And it's just a shame that it came down to that for the Cowboys.
Well, it was a good game. One of the things that we talked about last week, San Francisco's a really good team. And San Francisco is built to do things that Dallas cannot really stop. That running game that San Francisco has is absolutely unbelievable. Whether it's Elijah Mitchell,
yeah,
or whether it's Deebo Samuel in the backfield, they're just unbelievable. The defense with Bosa, they're tough. Even when Bosa went out, he's in concussion protocol right now. May not be able to play against Green Bay. They still are deep at the defensive line, and they still were able to get to Prescott and make things very uncomfortable for him. Dallas had 14 penalties. They shot themselves in the foot quite a bit. But also, let's keep in mind, Dallas's defense bended but did not break, because those 3 field goals that San Francisco got, they should have been touchdowns. And this game should not have been 23-17. It should have been more of a distance between them than it was. And Jimmy Garoppolo's interception was unfortunate, and I'm still trying to figure out where he was throwing to and why that happened. But, San Francisco is a very good team. I mean, very good team. The thing that I said last week, and I told John before the show today, the thing that I said was this is a bad matchup for Dallas. I need to stop saying that, because San Francisco is just a good team, because really it's a bad matchup this week when they play Green Bay. Green Bay does not have a strong run defense. What does San Francisco do well? Run. What do you want to do when you're playing in 10-degree temperature? Run. So, but they're a very good team. And this Kyle Shanahan, just remember what I said last week? Like father, like son. The running back Elijah Mitchell is a 5th or 6th round draft choice. Terrell Davis was a 5th or 6th round draft choice at Denver. They don't go and find the top running back. They take a running back late in the draft and fit them to their program. And he fits well. And you got to give San Francisco credit. They played a great game. You got to give them credit. They beat Dallas. Now, some of the things that Dallas did at the end of the game, I mean, I'm not rooting for Dallas. You already know that. So the play call that they made, I mean, I was pleased with it at the end because it basically helped San Francisco. But San Francisco also, in my opinion, this is why I don't like a prevent defense. They went to a prevent defense, and Dallas went 3 plays and 40 yards down the field, just like that. Now, the thing I was saying to you, Gary, before the show today, if you went 3 plays and 40 yards and you got 14 seconds left and you've already done 3 plays and 40 yards, what's wrong with 2 shots at the end zone, as you said, Gary? What's wrong with 2 shots at the end zone? You call a quarterback draw, and even with the quarterback draw, which I don't agree with as a call, but Prescott went too far. He should have fell down 3 yards sooner, and they would have had a second or two to get one more play. But I still think with 14 seconds left, they probably should have called down the field. And the other thing is what they did not do, what the Cowboys did not do. When you realize that you're not going to be able to spike the ball and have time left on the clock, they should have called a play where everybody just goes straight to the end zone. That should have been an automatic call for Dak Prescott to look at them, and I guess some of them call it 911. You just go straight down the field. Go to the end zone because you're not going to have enough time to spike the ball and get another playoff. That's what they should have done. None of that happened. The receivers looked confused. They didn't look like they knew where they were supposed to be. And the other thing that happened, and I guess you need to know this if you're playing whatever sport you're playing, you need to know the rules. The referee, the umpire, the official, whoever in that situation has to touch the ball, has to locate the ball, has to spot the ball. The center cannot spot the ball. The official, the guy in the striped shirt, has to touch the football. And that got lost in the equation as well.
Yeah. And see, when it became such a jailbreak there at the end, it's like everybody just really, I mean, everybody on Dallas just really lost sight of the importance of time, distance, you know, what you have to do. So to me, that's where coaching comes in. In terms of the play call with Dak Prescott, the draw play, what's left of my hair, if I had hair, I would have been pulling it out because once again, an offensive coordinator wants to believe that he's smarter than the average bear. Whether it's Pete Carroll calling for a pass play when you've got beast mode in the backfield in the Super Bowl, or John Harbaugh, going for 2 in 2 games and blowing both of them. But that was just a bizarre call, and I was yelling, "What are they doing?" And it came back to bite them. And I thought, really, at best, they should have had 3 seconds to run one more play. But just that whole fumble, that exchange between the official and the center, where he had to respot the ball, the game was over at that point. That's what comes down to coaching. Make your players aware. And for that matter, the center should have been aware. He shouldn't have touched that ball. He should have treated that thing like a hot potato.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, Prescott falling down 3 yards sooner gives you a couple more seconds on that clock, which they did not. And like I said, I don't like San Francisco's prevent defense. I don't like that, and that led them to get down their field as far as they did. But give San Francisco credit, man. They're unbelievable. Give them credit, but whew.
Yeah.
What else? What other games we got here, Gary? What other games we got here?
Well, I'm going to talk about the one that really shocked me last night in terms of just how dominant the Chiefs were. That was one. I mean, say whatever about Ben Roethlisberger, his finale, that kind of thing, but the Chiefs really looked good last night. They look like a team like 2 years ago. And that's about all I can really say on that everything that they needed to do, no matter that it was a Pittsburgh team that more or less kind of backed into the playoffs, I guess you could say. Well, they won. I shouldn't say that. But, kind of got in on the skin of their teeth. But that was just a really dominant performance.
Kansas City played well. They dominated the game after the first quarter. They were down 7-0, and the game started really slow. But then Mahomes started slinging it around the field. I think he threw for 5 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah.
They got a tough matchup coming up this week. They get Buffalo again. So we'll see a rematch of last year's AFC Championship. We'll see how it goes. But they are playing very good ball right now, Gary. They're playing really, really well.
The thing about that game was you saw a different Josh Allen. I mean, since that New England loss, he's just been a completely different quarterback. He's doing it with his arm and his feet. And that's kind of, again, you learn from your mistakes. They won. Golly, I'm going to be getting my games confused here. Talking about Mahomes. I'm talking about Josh Allen. I meant to talk about Mahomes. With Kansas City, again, they're playing well. We gave them up for dead at midseason. We were wondering what's going on. Much like Buffalo, and they figured it out, and they look like a team that could win the AFC. And I say could or should because I'm not really sold on Tennessee just yet. I'm just not. Too many injuries, the possibility that some players might not be available because of COVID, just because of that. I'm just not sold on them. If everybody's healthy, if they can get something out of anybody, they might have a chance, but you just don't really know with that team just yet.
You bring up a good point. They got Cincinnati this week. I think they beat Cincinnati, but the games have to go through Tennessee, Gary, and they're a tough team to beat at home. And through this run, the one thing Kansas City has not done through this run the last 3 years, they have not had to play a playoff game on the road. And if Tennessee wins and Kansas City win, guess where that next game will be at? It will be in Tennessee. So we'll see. And you mentioned Josh Allen earlier. I saw too much of him Saturday night. I'm a New England Patriots fan, so that was, I'll use the phrase of Bill Belichick to sum up how I feel about this. On to next season. That's all I can say for the New England Patriots. On the next season.
Yeah. So, and like I said, Buffalo is a different team than what we saw that cold night where they lost to the Patriots. Again, Josh Allen, he's figuring it out. Mac Jones, on the other hand, I'm not going to say he regressed, but the league kind of caught up to him a little bit down the stretch. And Buffalo, give them credit. They just said, this is not going to happen again. They've got a tough one. I think that they can give Kansas City a better game. It's just, you just can't fall behind like double digits early against Kansas City because they have a killer instinct right now that reminds me of the Super Bowl team. And again, momentum being everything in sports, especially in football, that you've got to be. You got to stay in the game early. You got to keep it, like say, within a possession, within a touchdown, a field goal to a touchdown. You cannot fall 10 points down to any team on the road at this point in the season. The game worth watching is that Cincinnati-Tennessee game because what I saw out of Joe Burrow was really, the potential, him realizing the potential that was projected for him when he came out of college. What do you think?
Cincinnati's playing well. They beat the Raiders on Saturday night. It was a good game, but Burrow's playing really well. Like I said, they have to go to Cincinnati. They have to go to Tennessee. I'm thinking that possibly their run will come to an end in Tennessee, but they are tough. They got the receiver number one. He is, in open space. He is unbelievable. I forget his name, Carter or something.
Yeah.
But he's he's unbelievable. And then Joe Mixon in the background, in the backfield running, they're tough. They are very tough, and they are going to be a hard team to beat. And Tennessee can't take them lightly. I think Tennessee wins, but they cannot take them lightly.
Yeah. And as far as the Raiders in Cincinnati, you know, there was another play, another official's play or non-play, non-call that I don't know if it really affected the outcome. I mean, because the game was so close, you know, you wonder what might have been with the inadvertent whistle that probably should have blown that play dead. And instead it was a touchdown. It was so much confusion at that time, whether the play was dead or not. Of course, you know, the touchdown was upheld. I don't know what in the world made that ref put a whistle in his mouth, period, on that with a play in progress. I mean, you know, John, you know officials, they are very quick with a whistle. I mean, at the end of a play, I just don't know what was going on at that point if you look at the replay.
I'll say this, Gary. I don't know what's going on either, but I know when they got together and they started talking about it, they realized one thing. If we don't say this is a touchdown, we are not getting out of here tonight. He realized that really quick because it was an inadvertent whistle. I mean, technically with an inadvertent whistle, the play is dead and you have to go back, you know, but I don't know why that got blown. So,
yeah. And give credit to the Raiders for really making that a good game, or making the playoffs in spite of everything that's happened to them this season between Gruden, the one player, you know, and being involved with the accident, that kind of thing, and you know, and injuries too. I think I was probably more impressed this season with how competitive Oakland was in spite of all those off-field distractions. And you know, they played a really good playoff game. I mean, they came up a touchdown short, but who would have expected them to be there at this point when the way that the season started? Because when you lose your head coach like that, and all the controversy and all the distractions that those kind of things cause, they really did right the ship. And I was really impressed with Derek Carr.
Yeah, they had a good season. Rough night to lose. The season ended, what was it, 4th and goal at the 7-yard line. The season ended right there, which was rough. But they had a good season. They had a lot of unfortunate incidents that happened, whether it was with John Gruden, whether it was with Henry Ruggs and the unfortunate car accident that unfortunate what led to fatalities. They had a very challenging season. I think the coach got them through it, but you know, we'll see what happens with the next coaching. I don't know if this coach is going to stay on, but we'll see what happens for them next season.
Yeah, you know, before we really look ahead, we've got one more game tonight. With Arizona and the LA Rams. I'd say if I was a betting man, that's a game, it's tempting, but it's also dangerous. And it's not because of the point spread. It's because Arizona probably should win this game because they've been so good on the road. I think they were something like, 8-1 on the road?
8-1.
Whatever. I mean, for crying out loud, they were just so much better on the road than at home. And teams can go into LA and win games. If I'm a Rams fan, if I'm thinking about betting on the Rams, I'm like, you know, I got to really, really look at this, because even though you figure home field advantage should mean something, it just doesn't against a team like Arizona, and because it's the Rams.
Well, Arizona's played very good on the road this year. They're 8-1. They play a lot better on the road than they do at home. But I think the Rams will find a way to get this win tonight and take a trip to Tampa Bay to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because the winner of this game goes to Tampa Bay. I think tonight the Rams will get things going with the running game. I think their defense will lock in with Aaron Donald, Von Miller. I think they'll play well tonight. It's not going to be an easy game, but I think they beat the Arizona Cardinals tonight. Also, Kyler Murray is a little banged up with his ankle. He's going to play, but he's still got a sprained ankle, so we'll see how that works out for him.
Yeah. The thing tonight I really want to see is Matt Stafford really take control of the game. He's in a better situation, of course, than Detroit, even though, he was solid in Detroit, but he gets a chance now to prove that he can lead a team far, in a good team far in the playoffs. I do think this is kind of a statement game for him. And it's a chance for him to prove maybe it's not so much the system that, that he does have some skills. He's a guy I kind of root for because when you play in Detroit, when you play for the Lions, there's just like a certain, you're maligned in a way, no matter what happens, no matter what kind of success, that you're always looked upon, less as opposed to other quarterbacks or other teams in the league. And I thought, well, maybe the Rams are taking a chance, but he's succeeded out there. And I want to see him really, not just prove himself, but he'll have some success because, that window of opportunity for the Rams, it's really starting to close. Everybody thought that was going to be the team to win at least one Super Bowl. They got there and, just laid an egg against New England. And all of a sudden, you see that window suddenly closing for them. And it's definitely closing for Matt Stafford.
Well, they have to do something this year. A loss tonight is definitely a disappointment to their season. They picked up Von Miller. They picked up Matt Stafford. They picked up Odell Beckham. So, they're piling on to do something this year. I think they'll win tonight. They need to win tonight because to lose tonight is definitely an underachieving season. And like I said, they get to go and play Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay looked pretty good yesterday, Gary, when they beat the Eagles. So, hey, we got to move to upcoming games. So I'll just say 2 words for Tampa Bay. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It says it all.
It's amazing to watch what he's doing now. And speaking of like proving he's not a system quarterback, I don't want to be one of those people to just say, Tom Brady walks on water, but I'll tell you, for him to be doing what he's doing at this age with a completely different team is impressive. And as much as I said earlier that the road, that Kansas City might be the strongest team, I keep forgetting, as long as Tom Brady is in Tampa Bay, and especially after that kind of game that they had yesterday, that, there could be another rematch looming. But to your point, it could be very well, Tennessee and Tampa Bay. But my goodness, the Bucs just look strong. They're proving that it was no fluke, obviously.
Totally agree, Gary. Totally agree.
Yeah. The thing about Tampa Bay, and especially down the stretch, teams every so often, teams will show flashes of what you think they could do in postseason. And the thing, as opposed to last year, where the defense really kind of carried Tampa Bay, the offense is really looking good. And I think, this is the kind of team that I think people expected Tampa Bay to look like last year when he came on board. He doesn't have a defense to hide behind. The defense is still what it is, but the offense is not hiding behind the defense. They're not just, taking those shorter fields. They're taking longer fields and they're moving the ball. And that's what's so impressive about the Brady effect.
Yeah, they're playing well, and they're missing some players now. Receiver, Godwin is out of there right now. Antonio Brown, we know he's not with them right now. Fournette may come back this week, but they had Mike Evans yesterday. Gronkowski's still playing, but Gronkowski's banged up. You know, first quarter, they were a little bit off sync, and you could see Brady was a little bit frustrated. But as the game went on, the newer receivers started catching on as far as what Brady was looking for, where they should be, continue running their pass patterns, don't cut off their routes. And look what happened, 31-15, Tampa Bay.
Yeah. In terms of Green Bay, how, you know, with having the bye, you feel like there might be rust, or you feel like that they just might come out recharged and take it to San Francisco?
I think they're going to come out and be ready to play, but that's going to be a very interesting game, Gary, because San Francisco, as we said earlier, is a very good run team. One of the things that Green Bay's defense does not do well is defend the run. So that's going to be very interesting to see how this game gets going and gets started. Another thing that we look at also in games that are going to be cold, we're talking about Lambeau Field. And I looked at it, I think the temperature for Saturday's game is 21 degrees. I think that's what I saw. They have snow coming in there tomorrow. And you're going to run the ball. That's not a lot of throwing going on out there with that. So you want to get control of the game really early. Another key thing is going to be, will Aaron Rodgers be able to find Davante Adams? San Francisco has a great defense, a very good defense, and they always have found ways to make it hard on a number one receiver. And I think they're going to do that again. The thing is, can they get him open to still make his magic happen? Adams catching a lot of passes, so we'll see. But that's a tough game, man. That's going to be a tough game.
Yeah. I agree with you. My thing about as much as I love the Green Bay Packers, I still have my questions about Aaron Rodgers in games of that importance. I really can't get it out of my head that NFC title game last year, losing that game, and I mean he just looked bad. And I don't want to say he played tight. It's just, I think he tried to do too much. And that's what I'm really afraid of in a game like this, that he might try to do too much like Brett Favre tried to do too much, not so much be a gambler like Brett Favre, but, he wants it to be about him. And sometimes when you do that, when quarterbacks do that, they end up making mistakes, whether it's Rodgers or Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, heck, even Tom Brady. Sometimes Tom Brady is, when he's had bad games, just because he really was trying to do too much. That's the thing. I think Aaron Rodgers just has to play the way that he's played all season. Obviously he's capable of it, but it's like if it's a tight game, is he going to, do a run or something that he shouldn't? Is he going to try to force it into coverage that he shouldn't? That's what really concerns me. It's like, if it's not like, say, a double-digit lead where he can play loose and that sort of thing, if he has to play tight in a tight game, that's when mistakes happen.
Well, we'll see. I'll just leave you with this note, Gary, on this game. The last time San Francisco went up to Green Bay on a wintry night for a playoff game, they won. And that was when they had a guy named Coach Kaki was coaching them. So, and it was a rough night, and they pulled it out in a playoff game. So
yeah, they did.
So I haven't picked anything yet, but I think I'm leaning towards going with San Francisco, Gary, to be honest with you.
I can't blame you. It's really weird. I feel like this playoff field in general this year has been more balanced than recent years. Like okay, when Kansas City won the Super Bowl, they were far and away the best team, and they showed it. Even though, like what you were talking about, with San Francisco and how good they are. But this team, I mean, I think this playoff field has just been more balanced, that I don't really see a definitive advantage with any team. The thing about about this point now, when you get into the divisional round, a team like San Francisco scares me. That's one team I really don't want to see at this point, because in essence, they're playing with house money.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen, man. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, to wrap up, first of all, I want to send out a prayer to the family of Joe B. Hall, former Kentucky coach, who guided, he took over for Adolph Rupp, which was tough, and he led Kentucky to the 1978 NCAA title. He passed away Sunday at the age of 33. At an age of 93. And the thing about that, with him, I had a chance to talk with him about many subjects, and he's in his late 80s. I mean, really up until about the time he turned 90, that he used to do a radio show here with Denny Crum up until about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. They talked about basketball, obviously, but they talked a lot about hunting and fishing, and his mind was very, very sharp, much like Denny Crum. The thing that I always appreciate about him is that when it came to talking about things like Adolph Rupp's legacy, the 1966 game against Texas Western, he was just very, very clear and in making a point about how good Texas Western was, that they knew it. Adolph Rupp knew it, and it just became clear that they were going to have to play their best game to beat them. And Texas Western was just head and shoulders above them, and he gave them props. But the thing that about his legacy there that I really will always appreciate is that he replaced a legend, and he made it his program by knocking out Indiana one year before Indiana's perfect season, losing to John Wooden in his final game in 1975, and then coming back 3 years later to win the NCAA title and basically, quash that whole idea about following a legend. And, of course, you and I know in DC that his next Final Four team, laid an egg against Georgetown in the Final Four that year, but none of that diminishes his legacy as a coach.
Great coach, great man. As I said to you earlier, last week, had a definite hard job because he was following Adolph Rupp, and that's a very large shadow to follow. And, Rupp Arena and everything else in Kentucky was all about what Adolph Rupp had done. I think Adolph Rupp won, five national championships?
Well, he won 4. Joe won the 5th. And it was even harder because Adolph Rupp, second guessed Joe B. Hall on a lot of things. When he did a show here,
mm-hmm.
Second guessed him on a whole lot of things. That didn't make it any easier for him. Again, he took a very good team that beat Duke that year, and whatever ghosts of following a legend, he did what Gene Bartow couldn't do at UCLA.
Yeah, he got the job done. I remember that night. Jack Goose Givens went for 41 points that night, and he finally was able to get his national championship. And condolences to his family. And like I said, I think he was one of the best coaches there was, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because, obviously, I think he's appreciated here, but I still don't think he gets enough credit for what he was able to do with that program in 13 years. 3 Final Fours, again, following the Baron of the Bluegrass and really making this program his own, putting his stamp on it.
People don't realize, Gary, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm sorry.
No problem.
He had 4 parade All-American centers. People don't remember this. They remember Sam Bowie and Mel Turpin, but they don't remember Mike Phillips and what's the other guy's name? Rick Roby.
Rick Roby, yeah.
They don't remember that. This guy was able to recruit and had some very talented players. Also,
Kyle Macy,
Macy, Kevin Greavy, he has some ball players. Also, I give him credit with Kentucky. For a long time, Kentucky would not play Louisville, or Louisville wouldn't play Kentucky, however you want to look at it. And they matched up in the NCAA tournament, which was not part of the regular season. But I think after that, they did play each other maybe a couple more times while Crum and Joe Hall were on the bench. So I give him credit for that, because for a long time, that was a sticking point. That was a sticking point about them not playing each other in Louisville and in Lexington.
Yeah. Well, of course, the rest is history with that. But the little bit of trivia that I learned Saturday when they played Tennessee was because they didn't play Louisville for a number of years. Tennessee was like their biggest rival, not just a border rival, but I mean, there were some barn burner games, and there was a lot of animosity between the fan bases and sometimes between the coaches. And that of course, like it was just fitting in a sense that Kentucky came out Saturday, just completely obliterated Tennessee. I mean, another little bit of trivia. Kentucky shot 78.6% in the first half, as if like they were channeling that 1968 season, 78 season. It matched a mark for first half percentage, but 78.6, you can't get it much more ironic than that, John.
Yeah, great guy, man. And like I said, may he rest in peace.
Yeah. Another reason why we appreciate sports, and we just want to thank you all for tuning in, watching us. Tell your friends and family that we are here. We're just two guys talking sports with a fantastic producer who's a great traffic cop. Tune in again next week. We'll have plenty to talk about with football and maybe some college basketball, and who knows, we might even talk about hockey. That's how good we are.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hope you all enjoyed the show today. Be careful out there. We got bad weather here in Maryland right now. You got bad weather in Kentucky, so be careful wherever you are. Have fun, watch some sports, and we'll see you again next week.
Till next time.